Hmm. Just some thoughts on Bryn Spejcher's sentencing of 100 hours of community service for committing a homicide in cannabis-induced psychosis. I actually forgot about it until the internet was raging, and my only thought was, well, a bunch of morons on the internet are upset. Yeah, who cares? That's one of the worst things about the internet is it's like democracy. The idiots are the majority, and the majority has power because they're the stupid people. Like, if you're honest and intelligent, you're not part of the herd. You're not one of the sheep. You're not one of the cattle. They hate you. The way they hate me for being honest about cannabis-induced psychosis. I got a lot of hate for expressing the truth. It's pretty funny. Um, if America was moral, and by that I mean the rank and file that are upset on the internet, it would be just accepted by the masses that the real cause of death was the man who gave her cannabis. Just objectively, right? Had he never, used marijuana to apply his date for sex, his date would have never ended up stabbing him in cannabis-induced psychosis. This is how all weed junkies are. They push it very aggressively. She actually said no. She doesn't smoke weed. And he was like, oh, come on, just try it, just do it. Just aggressively pressuring her. And then he got stabbed as a consequence of his actions, of pressuring her to do drugs. She doesn't even deserve 100 hours of community service. That's the miscarriage of justice. She's the victim here. But the masses don't care about the truth. If California, as in the state, the government, was honest, they would have decriminalized marijuana a long time ago. This is one of many, many famous cases of homicide caused under the influence of cannabis, therefore by cannabis-induced psychosis. One of the many homicides caused by cannabis. Remember that black guy that murdered those two girls when he was like 15 years old and live streamed it? And you could see their dead bodies on his, background video or whatever. Cannabis. He was smoking cannabis when he raped and killed those girls. There's a bunch of other ones that I can think of and can't think of. One would be a babysitter in, I think, Sacramento, who was in the car smoking weed when he left the door open to the apartment that he was babysitting at, and because he was a self-inducing psychosis. The high is the psychosis, detachment from reality, false memories, hallucinations. That's the whole point. Lost time. He didn't notice the baby crawl out of the door and under the tire of the car, which they ran over the baby's head and crushed its skull. The state of California should have clearly acknowledged this, and again, by the state, I mean the government, as well as the people, should have clearly acknowledged that cannabis was the cause of this infant death, this toddler's death, and so forth and so on. So, the moral and honest response to the Bryn Spejcher case would be a push for a recriminalization of marijuana. Californians, and therefore the state, as well as the people, are too greedy and blinded by their lust for wealth to simply tell the truth about cannabis-induced psychosis. So they're going to hate this woman. And I can empathize with that. I can empathize with being hated for things that are beyond your control, for things that you had no power over. That technically you're the victim of a corrupt society, and because a society is corrupt, they are hating you for their corruption. Because you were victimized by their corruption. So, in conclusion, There's no rationality or logic to the social media outrage, which is a very common thing that we see quite often in these sorts of incidents. Even now, posting this video, I'll get suppressed by, the people who run YouTube, etc. I would post on Twitter, but my Twitter account is suspended. Which, I'll do a side story on the Twitter account. I saw through the scam of Elon Musk claiming that he was about free speech. He's another globalist. It's another globalist agenda. It's just the same as the old Twitter, very psychologically weaponized for politics, etc. War propaganda, drug propaganda, porn propaganda, just like Gab, 9gag, BitChute, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, you name it. Name the social media, I'll show you the propaganda. And so I started saying the N-word just for fun. And because there's blacks who post the most heinous things, like, oh yeah, we was Mozart and we was King David, and no, that's okay, right? That's not a violation of the terms of service. But when I say, no, you guys weren't, you guys are clearly low IQ for posting this, oh, that's a violation. But I started saying the N-word, and that pissed off a black who wanted my address, and I simply replied that, the concept here is we're supposed to have a different set of laws for blacks than everybody else because blacks lack the intellectual capacity, emotional self-regulation, and impulse control to not have a violent response to mere pixels on a screen. Therefore, they can't follow the laws that everyone else is obligated to follow and is subject to. So we're supposed to have like a different set of laws for blacks than everybody else, right? Different set of consequences. Is that equality? Yeah. And I explained, you're experiencing, this is what I told him in the video, I post videos. You're experiencing an involuntary emotional response to environmental stimulus. This is mere pixels on a screen. I get called worse words all the time by white supremacists, and I don't let it bother me. They're just mean, oh, you mean words on the internet, bah. And I told him to smarten up, called him a monkey, and I got banned, even though I was in the right. It's very strange. So I can't post this to Twitter, which is weird because my Twitter outreach was gaining really high, a lot of views. Pissing people off causes more engagement, so I was actually good for the platform because I was provoking more user engagement, more clicks, more involuntary emotional response to my content. So, anyway. But that's the same thing. That's very similar to the Bryn Spejcher thing. The truth didn't matter. When I appealed to have my account restored, I simply said, I was promised free speech, which is written into the Constitution of my nation. And it didn't get restored. Anyway. I would say cannabis should be obviously recriminalized because the Bryn Spejcher cannabis-induced homicide is not an isolated incident, and they've only been increasing with legalization. But given the way we're going over this cliff of moral decline, the masses, the majority, the herd is so brainwashed by pro-marijuana propaganda, from corporations, through media, that they display a severe cognitive dissonance when it comes to the simple truth. And that's something I've experienced in real life, not with Vashon Island, but also with New Mexico, Hispanics, my family, and pretty much everywhere I go. So it's interesting how easy it is to program the masses with media.